Right here with Dr. Clark here. So I'm going to ask you some questions. Where were you born?
Right. I am not a local Trinidadian.
Yeah.
I was born back home in Europe, in Italy in Vatican City.
Yeah.
My mom had me there while she was pregnant, and it was a place where mothers were not supposed to walk when they are pregnant in that area.
Yeah.
But fortunately, my parents had a right diplomatic call for my parents to remain pregnant in that area. I was born in the Vatican City.
In the what?
In the Vatican, Rome.
Vatican Road?
Yeah,
Wait,
Rome.
Rome?
Rome.
Okay.
Yeah. I was, I had the normal midwife procedure to
Yeah.
delivery. And when I was born, I was really fortunate to remain in the Vatican City for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my father never objected to that. However, my father came from a language, from a Muslim language called Medina.
Okay.
And while my parents were learning about my siblings, Vatican City decided to have a diplomatic call from my family relations since he was a Muslim and my mother is a Christian.
Okay.
So they had this, what they call a diplomatic agreement. What I took to start learning, I will have to learn on two bases. One in the Vatican City, considering Rome, Italy,
Yeah.
and the next one in Saudi Arabia, in Medina, in an inside kingdom after Sultan.
So what you saying, you went to school?
Yeah, I went into school.
Okay.
And as a result, I became an expert in bilingual. I'm expert in bilingual in Italian Vatican, in the according to according to the norms of teaching curriculum. Right, I was trained in the Vatican, Italian speaking language, etc.
Yeah.
And while in my father side, I was fortunate to be rare in Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia area, inside one of the Medinas and then internal state called the Kingdom. And I was trained there as a Muslim.
So you end up Trinidad now?
But that's the next story. If you want to continue hearing my birth, I can continue relating my birth.
Okay.
So which side you want to start with?
I'll follow the journey.
Right. So the topic is I became a doctor when I was approximately 4 or 5 years old. Yeah.
You become a doctor when you was 5?
Yeah, 4 or 5 years old.
What you to be a
5
doctor?
years.
What you to be a doctor when you're 4 or 5 years old?
Well, according to my grandparents' history, I have a grandfather who may be in his late 80s, 90s, so.
Yeah.
And he said when I was born, I was able, fortunately, to assist him. He's a doctor.
Yeah.
When other parents' delivery at the time. When that is straight, when I started as a doctor, I started as approximately 2.5 years old, having the assistant of my parents delivering babies.
2.5 years old?
Yeah.
That is unbelievable.
I do wouldn't believe that. And when I was of course on my father's side in Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia, I came across lone Muslim like myself, and they chose me to be elected as an imam. You know, as an imam.
I don't know much about the Muslim community.
Muslim imam is a head of a Muslim community.
Right.
And I started being the head when I was about approximately 1.5, 2 years old.
Okay.
There's a curriculum to have a choice among elected Muslims to choose an imam. And I was given that privilege when I was 1.5, 2 years old.
Okay.
And I became the top person to be elected as the imam. However, the trend is I had now the distinction of an education being a Muslim. On my father's side and on my mother's side, I had the cardinals. According to Vatican Italian training, I had the routine of a cardinal upbringing as well.
Okay.
However, so I was able to have both languages in terms of Arabic in Muslim Medina and in training to where the Quran, the Holy Quran is concerned. And on the Christian side, I have the Italian training where the Vatican Cardinals is concerned. So I was both trained in Italian language specifications and in the Muslim faith where the Arabic teaching is concerned. I graduated when I was 4 years old as a doctor, as a clerk.
You graduated as a 4-year-old?
Yeah, as a doctor and as a clerk. I had my other siblings,
When you was 5?
yeah, 4 or 5 years old.
Or you to be a
5
doctor?
years.
Or you to be a doctor when you're 4 or 5 years old?
Well, according to my grandparents' history, I have a grandfather who may be in his late 80s, 90s, so.
Yeah.
And he said when I was born, I was able, fortunately, to assist him. He's a doctor.
Yeah.
When other parents' delivery at the time. When that is straight, when I started as a doctor, I started as approximately 2.5 years old, having the assistant of my parents, delivering babies.
2.5 years old?
Yeah.
That is unbelievable.
All right, you wouldn't believe that. And when I was, of course, on my father's side in Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia, I came across lone Muslim like myself, and they chose me to be elected as an imam. You know, as an imam?
I don't know much about the Muslim community.
Muslim imam is a head of a Muslim community.
Okay.
There's a curriculum to have a choice among elected Muslims to choose an imam.
Okay.
And I became the top person to be elected as the imam. However, the trend is I have now the distinction of an education being a Muslim on my father's side and on my mother's side. I had the cardinals. According to Vatican Italian training, I had the routine of a cardinal upbringing as well.
Okay.
However, so I was able to have both languages in terms of Arabic in Muslim Medina and in training to where the Quran, the Holy Quran is concerned. And on the Christian side, I have the Italian training where the Vatican Cardinals is concerned. So I was both trained in Italian language specifications and in the Muslim faith where the Arabic teaching is concerned. I graduated as a doctor, as a clerk, and as a clerk. I had my other siblings' relations with my parents, particularly my father's side as a Muslim. They always had what they call examinations to show the kingdom among where they are coming from. Because Italian Muslim kingdom in terms of Saudi Arabia, you have other like China and so forth. And all of these are like kids, you have these examinations and challenges to go through. And I was able to pass through all of those examinations. So when I became a doctor at being in the Sultan area, I was more inside the internal kingdom called Medina. Right. And when I graduated fully as a Muslim, I became the head in the Muslim community as a result. So I became an Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia head, where the Medina Islamic Muslim faith is concerned. I was trained in the Quran as well as trained in the posters of the Quran as a kid, and where the normal attire and the dress to wear where the Muslim is concerned. I had all the rights and privilege to display what kind of Muslim Medina was coming from, particularly from my grandparents' relations point of view. And I continued being an imam when I was more studious in relations to my examinations. I became a full-fledged doctor. I became one of the first imam doctor known as Nagi, Imam Nagi. And I had other research experiments where medicine is concerned. I continued being an obstetrician, that is a pediatrician, and I became the most robust pediatrician in the Medina Kingdom in Saudi Arabia.
Alright. So my question is to you now, which one of your parents is Trinidadian?
None of my parents are locally Trinidadian.
So you,
But
oh, you end up Trinidad.
what they have here, they have a business contract with the government.
Okay.
Right. And when I came here,
What age you came here?
I came here when I was about roughly about 10 years old.
Okay.
There is a traditional league between recently we call it European Union, the EU, the European Union, and the Caribbean states, which is formerly known as the British Commonwealth state.
Okay.
Right. And this link between British Commonwealth state and European Union was annexed with my mother and my father. They belong to a kingdom.
Okay.
Right. So when I came here as 10 years old to put on a long thing short here, long story, I had the examination, the board examinations in this country
Yeah.
to my lab,
To who?
to my lab, to my like a computer,
Okay.
IBM computer. I had all of these examination board to my fingertips, and I was carried from one classroom to the next. If that is making any sense at all.
Okay.
How I ended up here is when I came here through the diplomatic corps with my mother and father, I ended up being shifted because of my learned background from one classroom into the next. And then I had what they call wardens, like school wardens, you know about school wardens?
No.
Teachers and so forth,
Yeah.
like teacher prefects. They are like,
Okay.
they are-
Understand. Like
okay,
prefects.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so they are disciplinarian teachers where I was being trained here in Trinidad and Tobago,
Right.
and they shift me from one classroom into the next. My parents were lost in a dual room.
You know what?
In those background. My parents became lost.
Mm-hmm.
My mother became lost. My father was completely absent.
In Trinidad, yeah?
Yeah, in Trinidad here.
Okay.
And when I discovered that I had no leanings of my parents, I had to stop some of the studies that I was accustomed to
Yeah.
and start taking a record of the facilities that I was being shifted in this country from one school into the next.
Okay.
Here, coming in South San Fernando is a great reminder.
So when you lost your parents, them now, who was the one helping you through school and so forth?
I don't want to use any name since I am here situated now in South San Fernando. I had the intelligence to recognize one or two teachers that is responsible for my remaining here in this country away from my family, and they're all elderlies.
No, yeah.
Yeah, they're all elderlies. So I don't want to be too specific.
No, I know.
where
I don't
names
want
is
to call on
concerned.
you. So how was it like losing your parents? What life it was?
Well,
what life was like?
Losing my mother and father when I came here was not so much hard sickening, so to speak. It was more like a guest here. Most like my background, most kids from my school background do not hold any like country sickness in that sense.
Yeah,
where
but
relations
no,
is
but
concerned.
remember, you're accustomed with
Yeah.
your mommy and your daddy,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden you're not
Yeah.
seeing them anymore. You
Well,
must like
You see, there's
wonder.
something called school, and there's something called school curriculum examinations. And when that becomes part and portfolio of your psyche, you lose track of your mother, you lose track of your father. And
I not agree with that.
okay, well, you're a girl, I'm a boy, right? And that scenario is so gurged in a school setting that sometimes you don't want to hear from your mother, sometimes you don't hear from your father,
Okay.
because you're so tied in the school system. But in this case, when I was living in Trinidad, living here in South San Fernando, I get so caught up in the curriculum system that I lose sight of my
Or
parents.
you was so into your studies.
Yeah, I was very, very much into my studies. Not only this, I discovered that I was gaining, like they have examination after examination, have like results and so forth.
Uh-huh.
I was gaining greater results every time I sit an examination.
You come out
I'm
on
much,
top.
yeah, more on top.
Okay.
And when I was, just say I'm supposed to call away, like people, parents who they trusted, of
Okay.
course.
But-
They left you in charge with a guardian.
Okay,
Right.
understand now.
And these guardians or school prefects or wardens, they have this responsibility as guardians to shift a child from one classroom into the next,
Okay.
from one school into the next.
Okay.
And I had that baggage for years now. When I came here in South San Fernando and I discovered that I have a patch, I had was to go into first fruits and thank God for the little learning I had to be stable here in Trinidad.
Okay.
And then I was able to unreveal and unfold the background where I was coming from. Formerly living back in Port of Spain, I had no ideas, no mindset, not even an idea that I was Muslim trained.
Okay.
And I had all the qualification that so grandparents now laid on my shoulders where I was coming from. In
Okay.
Port of Spain, everything was black.
So I get the whole education background now. So, you reach this stage in your life now where you're out on the roads and
Oh, to put a long story short again, I was living home with some guardians again, and they told me when I came back from work, I was working somewhere, that two young persons were waiting so long for me that they said they would come back the next day. I told them, okay, if they come back, let them remain here until I return again.
and that you could remember the age?
Oh,
You could remember what age you was at the time?
yeah, I was in my late 20s.
Okay.
Yeah, I was in my late 20s. And when they came again, they saw me and I introduced them to my guardians, and they said yes, they know something. I was from this area.
Yeah.
Like, they was wanted to make sure that I'm living in this area, and then they explained to me the course, the reason why they're here. And when they broke it down, I said, hold on. You want so and so and so and so? Yeah. We all from down. I introduced them to my guardians. They were at the time welfare recipients, and they both passed away now. And they explained that they have a heavy burden on the chest, which only I alone could solve for them. Then we sat down together and they explained to me the problem. I said, then how can I help them? They say, well, you is the only person who could help them. And I told them, give me some time, because what they explained to me will take me at least 2 weeks or 3 weeks to solve. They explained to me the course of time I take, they could turn, they could change their heart and their mind. I say, well, give me 2 weeks then, because what you just explained to me, I cannot just rush. Particularly, I can't rush into a government office without being consulted. So it will take at least 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay.
They tell me, okay, they will come back. When they return, they were completely satisfied with what I told them.
Okay.
Right?
You told him okay.
Yeah, they returned 3 weeks afterwards. And when they heard where I was coming from, they were satisfied. I explained to them that I would need some time off to continue the trend which my two friends just related to me. And if it comes to pass I have to leave the house, I will have to do so.
Yeah.
Because I know both of them, right? And that course took me at least a whole 20 years later to discover what he was telling me is that I belong to a different past, not to well, I was brought up with guardians. I thinking that they were guardians to me and they are not my family. You understand? So it turned out to be while I was helping them, I was also helping myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So, or you end up on the road now.
Well, after leaving home, I ended up coming in South San Fernando. My last job was what, and I explained to the head of the post office that I need some time off from work to come in South San Fernando to look for my mother and my father, because I grew up with guardians not explaining to me I have a mother and I have a father. You understand? And nobody know come. You understand? So I had to weigh my life in such a way that I don't head to head, particularly with the bosses and with the union where these guys are working. So I have to weigh my life in such a way that I don't come in conflict with the company and the workers. And when I came on the road, I rediscovered I have a different background and a different past. I end up being here in South San Fernando.
Okay. So one question I'd like to ask you, what would be your dream to come off the road? I didn't ask you have a family, you have kids?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I have a big family besides my father's family.
No, your own family.
Yeah. My father belongs to a Muslim clan.
No, you have a wife, you have children.
Yeah. And I had also followed the same steps with my father
Okay.
when I was living back home in Afghanistan and Saudi Arabia. And I have children with Muslim girls who are living in Trinidad presently.
Okay.
And I have children with them. I have children outside of I have a wife and children here. So when I came here in South San Fernando, I discovered that these girls were looking at me a long time ago.
Okay.
Not knowing that they were my wife for a few years.
Okay. So what would be your dream? To come off the road? Have somewhere to stay?
One of my dreams is to unite with my mother and my father.
Okay.
Coming off the road is not my problem. Finding the ground of my mother and my father absent from Trinidad is one of the first cause for me living in South San Fernando for this long time.
Okay.
Finding the route, particularly where the teachers is concerned. Finding the cause why the teachers could not have bounced into my mother, could not have come in contact with my father for so long. And one of my dreams is to unite with my wives, particularly my Muslim past and those from the Vatican City.
Okay. Alright. So guys, you hear a story. Anybody you need any help or anything?
Yeah. Right now, as I just show you my present place. Right now, where I'm staying in an empty lot, and apparently the owner decided to cut off not only the electricity, but entering into the location here.
Okay.
And I normally will have to use an escalator instead. What I'm fear is that the owner decided to cut off the water supply, which was one of my basic needs while living in South San Fernando.
Yeah.
I have some neighbors there, and they became very concerned and want to know why it is, and if we don't have arrears, if the government doesn't pay arrears or whatnot, and they will say they will look into it. I explained them this. They say they just look into it because that there have been an empty lot in South San Fernando for years now, unoccupied. Now, what I can be assisted with is my mother. She's very concerned about me and my father.
You remember her name?
Yeah. My mother's name is Judy.
Judy what?
Johnson.
Yeah.
And my father's name is Joe. Everybody knows Joe.
Okay.
Oh, little Joe.
Alright. Well, I'll post this story then. It was nice talking to you.
Thanks,
I hope you have a blessed day.
Thanks.
Yeah. Bye guys.